So the way they set this up, and this is just at a pilot level, but it's interesting. First, they presented the challenge, and students did a combination of, they worked in groups or by themselves to go on the internet. You know, they didn't say put away your smartphone. They said go to the internet and find out about sickle cell anemia, find out about these things. So they gave them the opportunity to prepare themselves for this. They then did an early interaction with a virtual mentor and in some cases other experts to get a sense of where the student was at this first point after they had done some initial exploration on the internet. They then went through this simulation, and actually they used Second Life for this, although because of the low bandwidth in many of the classrooms, they used a video digital projection to show the Second Life, so rather than having each student on their own because of technology limits. They then had the students actually counsel their virtual clients, and that's similar to the River City experiment they did here. And then students reflected on what they had learned and ways they could improve their performance. And this is a little bit of a dialogue between a teacher and a student. And the teacher is a part of this. So the teacher isn't removed. The teacher is actually involved. In this case, they found this important kind of probing and motivation role that the teacher played in saying to the student, put yourself in the place of these parents that are coming to you. You're the expert. You need to be able to tell them what the odds are. That's what they want to. That's what they want to know. And one of the things they're finding, this is very early pilot work, so this is not an assessment you can buy. This is just starting to come out. But one of the things they find is it's very motivating for the students. They feel engaged in it. They feel like it's a real authentic activity. And they also find that there are students who feel they can express their ideas in this mode and their understanding who have trouble doing it on more typical kinds of written tests. And you've heard that about technology before. And in the course of learning, that is, some students, when they are able to learn online and are able to use other forms of representation to show their thinking and their understanding, teachers often are surprised. Oh, I didn't know that he was actually so thoughtful and so smart about this mathematics concept or this science concept. But now when I see he has the most complete representations or is the best predictions with the simulation, I can see that he can do that. So the great thing is we now can capture really complex behaviors. We can integrate assessment with learning processes themselves. We have a huge possibility of what we can build assessments from. But the hurdle we're still facing is being able to demonstrate that the measures that we get out of this, first being able to abstract the measures. If you've done this kind of work, having every keystroke that every student made with this simulation is great, but what are you going to do with that? It's an overwhelming amount of data. So first you have to be able to develop, concise ways of capturing what's important about the performance. But we're pretty good at doing that. But then you need to show that this really is something that's reliable and that it's also valid for the purposes for which we're using it. So right now, I think we're at a point where a number of projects have demonstrated that they can pull out measures that predict how well students will do with the same kind of learning environment that the measure's taken from. So if you give them more of it, they'll continue to do well. So for that purpose, these measures are valid. But what we really want to know is if the students do well on the assessment within our simulation of River City, does that mean that those students will really do well as young scientists, whether it's secondary school or university or out in the field? Does that mean that they would do well in the real world? And that's really where we don't have the evidence yet. I'm not saying we won't get it. Actually, if you're a researcher, this is a wonderful opportunity because there's a lot of good work to be done here. But we need evidence that the performance on these embedded assessments predict what students will do in other situations. And that's been pretty rare. I know Chris Didi's group at Harvard, or with a colleague, they now have a project where they are going to do an online virtual environment, or a series of them, six different ecologies. And they're going to be able to look and see whether assessment taken from your behavior with one ecology predicts your behavior with another ecology. That's a step forward. But again, what you really want to know is it going to help us understand where you are in terms of becoming really a scientific thinker outside the virtual environment as well as in it. So, and then the secondary challenge is finding ways to develop these assessments and the learning environments at lower cost. I think that challenge, I don't want to dismiss it. I think that one will be solved, that there are systems and frameworks and learning objects we can reuse that will help us do that. I think that will be solved. But the harder one, I think, is this demonstration of validity for the kinds of purposes for which we want to use assessments. And I think for that reason, that's the note of caution about all of this. I'm very excited about it, but we need to not oversell it. Okay, so that's a lot of information. I'd love to get some reactions, thoughts. Have you got examples of this from your own country, or does this seem like something that would be useful in instruction?